By the way, Sam.
Hello. Okay. Well, never
Sorry.
mind.
By the way, Sam, the way you say a 3, a 2, a 1 reminds me of the bird from Getting to the Sun. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's zero.
Okay. Anyways.
You
All right.
guys, Nicole is talking to our imaginary producer, Sam, who you cannot see or hear, but he exists. We assure you. And if you want to hear him, you'll never see him. You can join patreon.com/twofilthynerds. And now we're going to kick off our Thor episode. Are you ready? I won't see your reply because you're not in the front row. Want to be in the front row? Also head over to patreon.com/twofilthynerds. You can be chatting along live with us right now. No delay. And we'll actually read your shit. Ha. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hello.
And welcome to
Filthy Nerds.
Because we're filthy.
And we're nerds.
And there's 2 of us.
There's 2 of us. There's 2 of us. And we're talking about Thor.
Oh, hot. Sorry.
Me?
I moved the microphone closer to me. Sorry. Sorry.
All right. YouTube, you didn't hear all the notes in the background, but we're going to take it from the top. So you're getting a peek of
Because I
us
fucked it up.
going over. This is a great live show. We're killing it. All right. Once more with feeling, as Aaron said in our chat. Join the front row. All right. Hemsworth. Okay. Hello.
And welcome to Filthy
Nerds.
Because we're filthy.
And we're nerds.
And there's 2 of us. Hi, guys. We're here.
We are here. We're going to be talking about Thor today. And if you're listening to this in your earphones, it's too late for you to join our live chat. If you're watching on YouTube right now, because we go live on YouTube every week now, you could be in the front row at patreon.com/twofilthynerds. That's the chat we're reading. We've got a secret chat. It's not on YouTube. It's only through Patreon. Get on over there. Support the podcast. Join a cool crew of filthy nerds. And,
talk shit to us. Give us factoids.
Yes,
whatever sort of participating you want to do.
Absolutely. Or just sit there quietly watching from closer up somehow without all the fun background effects. Because we also go on break and we start new videos on YouTube. But the whole time, we're here with the chat. Anyway, you're most likely listening to this because that's where we get the majority of our downloads. And if you have not already, please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes.
Yeah, why are you not doing that? We've asked you dozens of times already.
Just fucking get to it.
And spread the word. Don't just make 2 filthy nerds your thing. Make it everyone's thing.
We want to be everyone's dirty secret, you know?
Yeah.
Speaking of dirty secrets, I don't have a good transition for that, but we're going to start talking.
Speaking of dirty secrets, Thor, Loki, very much a secret.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And also that by the time you're hearing this, if you're not watching live, that has already come out. Hope you're watching the Loki series. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited that Owen Wilson is playing a character in it. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, I told I'm on tour right now with Melissa Villaseñor, and I was like, did you know? Because I was like, oh no, Owen Wilson's trending. I thought he died. And then I was like, oh, thank God.
What? Oh my God. Maybe he'll come on SNL. I mean, they're off right now.
Again. But yeah. I mean, that'd be fucking rad. Here is a little secret since we started talking about secrets. Do you know who the part for Thor came down to? The 2 actors?
Hemsworth and another guy.
It was Chris Hemsworth and it was Liam Hemsworth. It was between
2 brothers. Oh.
Which is just fucking hilarious. They're both
doing just fine.
Yeah, both destined to be superhero.
Both
hotties.
Destined to be material that I jerk off to.
Absolutely. What is Liam Hemsworth? He's in the Hunger Games too. So like it worked out for everybody.
Yeah, everybody's truly killing it.
Oh, and since we started this whole podcast on a Harry Potter note, did you know that there's a tie to Harry Potter with this movie?
No, I'm trying to remember who. Oh, Eric Selvig.
Wait,
nope,
what?
I don't know who. The guy who played.
You just said someone. You're like, he was probably a Harry Potter character.
I mean, the Frost Giants remind me a lot of Game of Thrones.
which somehow reminds you of Harry Potter because there's castles. I get it. It's all a sort of.
Okay, so what's the connection to Harry Potter?
Thor was directed by Sir Kenneth Branagh, who played Gilderoy Lockhart in the second Harry Potter. It was
Oh,
directed by
nice.
him, which I didn't catch this. I chatted with our producer Sam a little bit before I rewatched the movie, and Kenneth Branagh was a big Shakespeare guy, and that's why they brought him on because Thor is sort of this like old lore, and they wanted to sort of have that,
A Shakespearean touch.
which Sam picked up on. I guess I just don't pick up on subtle things, but anyway, kind of a cool thing.
I think you pick up on subtle things. It's just that Sam is a Shakespeare nerd and he's going to pick up on Shakespeare shit.
Oh yeah, aren't you kind of into Shakespeare too?
I used to, I mean, not nearly as much as Sean, not nearly as much as Sam, but yeah, I enjoyed Shakespeare. There's the whole idea of a Shakespearean tragedy,
I mean,
the whole idea of a brother, a father banishing a brother, that's very, King Lear banished one of his daughters. It's
so
like
you are a Shakespeare dork.
I'm a Shakespeare dork.
I remember when you were dating some guy and I heard you talking on the phone with him about Shakespeare, and I was like, it's like I don't even know her. Who is
Hilarious.
this woman? Listen, no dick is worth getting into Shakespeare for.
By the way, I don't even think I was necessarily. Oh no, I was talking about Hamlet with him. Yeah,
Oh.
Hamlet's the kind of. I think Romeo and Juliet is kind of the number one Shakespearean tragedy, and then number two is Hamlet. All right, whatever.
Anyway.
So let's kick this off. This kicks off. We're in the middle. There's like we basically are seeing these storm chasers. We don't know who they are just yet.
No, it's a fun. Kat Dennings, that was fun. Like
Kat Dennings, I was like, why is she here? And then I love when she uses the line where like, this is not worth 6 college credits. So immediately I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, she's doing a college internship, but who is Natalie Portman and who is, I don't know, the actor who plays Eric Selvig. But
they're like, it's made clear that they're astrophysicists, and for some reason she's like storm chasing. Fun fact, actually, Kenneth Branagh, to circle back, played Hamlet, so that's fun.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the movie. They're
storm chasing some electrical magnetic something breaks through and they're like drive and they're like driving chaotically.
It reminded me of Twister. Did you ever see Twister?
Yeah, 1000% reminded me of Twister. It was the most, that's why I thought it was like a storm chasing scene. I'm like, oh, they're chasing a tornado, but then they're really crazy creating some like light phenomenon in the sky.
Yeah, they don't know what's coming through the sky, so they're like getting these like energy fields, and she's making I forgot Kat Dennings' character's name, but like drive straight into it. Darcy, that's right. She's like, as you said, she's like, this isn't worth it. And Natalie is like jerking the wheel, trying to like get her to stay on course toward the thing. And all of a sudden they fucking
hit a dude,
hit a man. Like, what the fuck?
And then we see his body like semi-unconscious, hot, big. We know who he is, but anyhow.
Yeah, because it's Thor.
And then we cut away to the story behind Thor, and we kind of get into the lore of Thor. The lore of Thor. Thor lore.
The lore of Thor. The law of Thaw.
There's Odin, who is Daddy. Daddy is
played by
Daddy Thor. Anthony Hopkins, who is like the biggest Shakespeare person ever.
And this is a couple of fun facts about Odin. Stan Lee actually like really wanted to play Odin, but he was really happy with the casting, and the part was originally offered to Mel Gibson, who turned it down, which was probably the last part he was offered in Hollywood.
Someone in our chat just said Hopkins trained under Lawrence Oliver, and also
Lawrence Olivier.
Lawrence, yeah.
How dare you?
I get everything wrong. And then Anthony Hopkins played King Lear.
King Lear. So there's so much Shakespeare overlap here, little inbreeding of Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
But we meet them, and what's going on is it seems to be that there's a ceremony about to name Thor the heir to Asgard's throne. So he's about to take over for his very old father.
But first Odin describes there was a war in the past that was between the Asgardians, which is what Thor, and that's the world he's from, and then these frost giants, which are very Game of Thrones. Like, I was like, why are we doing Game of Thrones right now? And they had stolen this like light casket. They kept calling it the casket, which I don't completely understand what it does.
I still don't understand why it's called a casket. There's obviously casket means two things, but I hear casket and I think one thing. Sweet, sweet death. Yes. Let
Yes,
me in
sweet,
there.
sweet. She is just wet as always for it.
Just squirt,
Um,
squirt, kill me. Uh yeah,
and so we
so
established that, he says that Odin is talking to Thor as a child with Loki, and he's like, hey, listen, you guys, only one of you can be king one
yeah,
day.
like both of you are amazing, but only one person can be king. And he sets up the story of like the frost. You get this idea that the frost giants were these very negative, trying to like conquer people, and by stealing their casket, peace was sort of
Created.
established in their
Don't
realm.
totally understand.
So we cut to from him going, only one of you can be king. We cut to, what seems to be modern day Asgard pretty much.
And it's
It's a
basically
ceremony.
Thor is ascending to the throne of king.
Yeah, it's a
And
whole thing, but before he actually gets announced as king,
three frost giants had infiltrated into that room, the secure room where the casket is kept. And there's
they're
this
just about
thing
to
that
take it.
and there's this thing that comes out from behind the wall, like this wall kind of melts down, and there's this thing called the destroyer, and he basically just like throws a hammer or something down, and the whole room just blows up. So he kills these ice giants,
Yeah, and
or
it's like
frost giants.
It's like Odin from across this, I don't know if it's planet, I don't know if it's the same building. He like senses it and just does like a click. And then this fucking like
Oh, and
giant
he was about to basically knight his son or king his son, and he was like, "I now pronounce you." Wait a minute, something's going on, and then like the whole ceremony ends. And he
terrible
was
timing.
never pronounced king. That reminded me of the Princess Bride.
Yeah, no,
But you never said I do. You never said I do. Yes, I did. There was a ceremony. We had it. He's like, but you never said I do. Unless it's not official until you say I do.
I forgot about that scene. That's like a great, like that's a fun parallel.
Mhm.
Well, this is what happens is like this is sort of setting the scene for like what is going to inevitably come sort of the overarching conflict, the sort of like, headbutting of the movie, but oh, the casket's safe, but there's this disagreement of, we see Odin and Thor and Loki around the casket, and were they around the casket or they
Yeah,
just
they were arguing in that room,
and
and Thor
Thor
is like,
is
we
very
need to
much
go
like,
teach them a fucking lesson. And the dad's like, yo, stop being a fucking warmonger. It's fine. We took care of it. It was probably just 3 outliers who made it in. Like, it's fine. This
yeah,
is not
but
a big
he's like,
deal.
it's not fine. It wasn't interesting, just that perspective of, he's like, oh, the planet, like this whole race is coming after us. It's like, and the idea, seeing this leadership of, no, this was probably 3 rogue crazies.
Mm-hmm.
And Thor's got this warrior mindset, which the king points out. He's like, you are acting like a warrior. You
And
need to
not a
be
king.
like
You
a
got to
leader.
kings keep peace.
And he goes like, he's like, we need to go over there. Um,
Loki eggs him on. Loki's like, you're so right. And then Thor gets his fucking band of brothers together and one sister.
wait, we didn't even get to well, you can't skip over him going as the king of Asgard. And he
Oh
goes,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not
yeah.
king.
And he's like, bro, you're not king. You weren't
And
turned
he's
into the
like,
king.
fuck you. Like, it's not happening. Let it go. And then we
And
cut
Odin
to
is like, it is expressly forbidden to you for you to go to Jotunheim, which is
Jotunheim,
Jotunheim,
which
which
is
is
where the Frost Giants live. He's like, don't retaliate. I forbid you. And we cut to a scene of Thor being like fucking angry and he flips a whole table of
yeah,
a feast.
of a feast. I mean, do not waste food like that. Waste not,
No.
want not. I'm so
Yeah.
hungry.
I mean, me too. God. And then we see, so his kind of crew comes in being like,
All right, ride or die. We go with you. He had
yeah.
to
And
convince them. They weren't totally on board, but he had to convince them, and then they did. And then they go to this Bifrost Bridge, which is the mode of transportation in that galaxy. And the guy who guards it is none other than what's his face? Why am I blanking on his name? The
oh,
hottest black man in the world.
you're going to set up Idris Elba like that. And you're
Idris
not even
Elba.
gonna,
Sorry,
fucking
Idris Elba.
embarrassing.
Okay,
And it
I'm
is
sorry.
like you mentioned, he's like, oh, it's so bad. And Loki does go like, yeah, I mean, someone should do something, but like, there's no way to do it without disobeying dad. And
And
it's
he's like,
like,
but it like has to happen.
and that's where he gets like the wild look in his eyes. And he goes with Loki, joins them with the Warriors 3, which is, I didn't fucking know their individual names, but he convinces them like, isn't this what we do this for? And like, aren't you you're the strongest this, and I always
Yeah.
supported you. And
Yeah.
it's funny when he says it to the woman. He's like, nobody believed a woman could be one of the fiercest warriors of all time. And who convinced them? Because he's going, who did this? And all the
Who
other guys are
believed
going
in
like,
you?
it's like,
I
yes.
did.
Yeah. And
And
he's
I
like,
also did.
yeah. I was like, who let people know that women could do it? And she's like, I did. I did it by doing it. And he's like, yeah, but I like supported you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they go to the bridge with Idris Elba.
Idris Elba's like, all right, I'll let you pass. And he sends them off. And
To
the
Jotunheim, and
Jotunheim,
fucking they show up and start fucking shit up.
they don't immediately start fucking shit up. There's a little bit of fucking up, but Laufey, the king of the frost giants, he's like, listen, you guys need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you leave. You have no idea what this is gonna do. And as they're walking away, one of the frost giants or someone said, I can't remember who, to Thor, he goes, go home to your mommy. And
Yeah.
then Thor flips his shit. And Thor, you see that like the glimmer in his eye, like, oh, it's on like
Yeah,
Donkey
it's
Kong,
like that
bitch.
classic. There's always like one thing you say to a guy that sets them off, like in Back to the Future. Nobody calls me a chicken. And it's like, why is that such a thing?
Yeah. And in
But
this one, it's go home to your mommy.
But then it's just like ass kicking, hammers flying.
And by the way, I had never really like totally knew how the hammer works. Cause like I've seen the other movies, but it's like Thor's always like the last superhero. I'm like, the hammer to me is always like this kind of like boring weapon.
Oh, I think
But
the hammer is so
see,
fucking cool.
but to see the hammer in its like vastness in this movie, I was like, oh, that's a fucking dope ass weapon.
Oh yeah, and I think that this scene is built to establish like this hammer
the
is a
dopeness
fucking,
of the wedding. Yeah.
It's like you need to see this scene to appreciate the hammer.
So shit pops off.
It's like all of them fighting these frost giants.
They're fighting these frost giants. They're trying to escape. The group breaks away. Thor's hanging back, still fighting.
Fucking people up.
The frost giant unleashes this huge fucking beast. So Thor has to fight this beast now.
Laufey. How do you say Lau? What's the fucking frost?
Laufey.
Laufey.
Laufey is the king. Laufey unleashes this fucking giant
frost
dog. So the frost dog takes after the group that's trying to get back to the Bifrost Bridge.
There's like the big hairy guy who's one of the Warriors 3. He gets like one of the frost giants grabs his arm and it burns him. He's like, don't let them touch you. And then we see Loki get touched and he doesn't get fucked up. And it's kind of this weird
nothing
like,
happens. And Loki's like, wait, why didn't I? And the frost guy who touched Loki even looked at Loki like, wait, why aren't you burning?
Why aren't you burning? So they're all making a run for it. And it's like the edge is cut off. They like
and one guy had gotten hurt. And they get to the Bifrost and they're waiting for Thor at the edge so they can open up the Bifrost and get back.
As they're carrying their friend. And like the dog is like charging toward them. And here was the other thing that's important is that the gatekeeper up at Asgard was like, I will not let you back if it's dangerous to bring you back. Like basically like this dog is like, they're not going to get a bridge back if they've got this fucking dog with them.
Yeah. So this is the part where the hammer fucking, I was like, yes, the hammer.
The
Thor,
dog is like
takes the hammer.
Them.
Well, Thor takes the hammer and like basically explodes the ground, and all of the ground is like wiped out from underneath everybody.
Which honestly, Thor, of a wild move, because like you could your friends could go flying. What are you doing?
But I think he saw his friends out of the way enough that he was like, oh, I can do it now. And then he fucking hammers it. All the other frost giants fall in. He goes, he can fly through the air. The giant monster thing is about to like get his friends, and then Thor comes flying through the air and
with the
hammer and just breaks through the giant's mouth straight out the back of his head, and he's just fucking dead.
And he fucking drops. And then they're just like, peace out.
Bye, party's over. But the party's not over, and you'll find out when we come back after this break.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so
so
they've just killed the dog and they're thinking like we fucking got this, but then all of a sudden all
they
of
get
the
surrounded by Laufey and a bunch of fucking
very
goons.
White Walkery and it's like
Uh-oh,
it,
we're fucked.
it's literally like Laufey's about to like ice stab the fucking like they're about to like get fucked
They're
up.
done.
And then
And then
that
Odin
was supposed
shows
to be a
up on his
horse.
fucking high
I can't
horse.
do a horse, literally on a high horse. And he's like trying to like talk peace, like Laufey, come
He's like, this
on.
is just a stupid kid. He's like, well, this was a declaration of war, so war it is.
He's gonna
And
pay
then
for them for
and
the
then
finish
Laufey goes to stab Odin, and Odin was like, nah, bruh, and like blasts him back, and then immediately like transports everybody through the Bifrost Bridge, and it's over.
back to Asgard. And it's like, phew, we're safe. Oh, and then we see fucking Odin with Thor. Loki's also there, but being like, basically being like, how dare you? They get in this argument where like Thor, he calls Thor like immature and not fit to be a king. Thor calls him a fool and an old man. And then Odin's like, okay, well, now I'm fucking stripping you of your powers. So
Yeah.
who's the fool now,
Strips him
bitch?
of his power, and you see his like armor like fucking melt away.
And
then
Loki
he
goes
throws-
like Loki tries to jump in and go like, Dad, no, like, come on, it's just a mistake. But like he gets banished to Earth, which to circle back to the episode we had previous to this where we talked about exoplanets, just the worst. Coming from a
worst. I mean,
highly evolved planet, basically
Yeah.
going to a cow pasture of life, like what a nightmare. And
it's bad. And he ends up in all places in the New Mexico fucking
Yeah.
desert. I mean,
well-
if you're gonna banish someone, that's where you send them.
like you're going to the worst planet and the worst place on that planet. So that's where we cut to the first scene we saw of these storm chasers. Boom, a man hits them, and now we go.
Also Odin throws the hammer after. So
That's true. He like sends him like
Thor through
fuck
the
you.
portal, but then he says this thing to the hammer. He says, "Whoever holds the hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor."
And then he sends it right after him. So it's kind of like you get this little like,
and we know that
so he's still his dad. He's looking out for him.
We know that from the cutaway from Iron Man 1 when we see the hammer, when the shield agent is like in the desert in New Mexico, that we know that the hammer ends up somewhere separate from Thor.
Yeah.
Okay, so we cut back to the scene where it's the
smashing into Jane
in
Foster's
the
van. Yeah. And
they're like, oh no, we need to get him to a doctor. They get him to the doctor. Thor ends up like fucking the place up and escaping. All while this is happening, they get back to the office, the science office where everything is, trying to figure out what the fuck happened. And they look at these pictures that were taken and they see an outline of a human.
Yeah, like they see the storm cloud that was taken, and there's literally like, oh fuck, we got to go talk to that guy.
Yeah. Natalie Portman's like, I think I left something at the hospital. And then they go back to the hospital and there's like all this chaos because Thor had just like, fucked everything up and tried to escape. And they had him like shackled down, which he gets out of, and he escapes the hospital. And they're like, fuck, we need to go find Thor. They hop back into their car. Natalie Portman puts the car in reverse. And just like any good movie, she hits him again.
I got to pause because did something happen with your sound, Nicole? My sound just got fucked up too. My microphone went out. Hang on. Yes. I'm going to unplug and replug. Yeah, Nicole, it's YouTube. We will be right back. We're fixing our sound.
All right, thanks for bearing with us, YouTube.
So
So we
Thor gets hit by Natalie Portman again.
we cut back to the. Oh wait. Oh yeah. So
I love the line where she goes, they're like, well, how are we going to find him? She's like, I don't know. Puts the car in reverse and then hits him. And there, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry I did this again.
she's like, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. And so now they have this guy that they like want information from.
Uh-huh. And he keeps speaking in his like weird, like, Asgardian speak. And like he gets to their office and he's like,
I need
is
sustenance.
this your realm? Oh, and then they go to a coffee shop. I love when he's in the coffee shop and he's like, this drink is delicious. And then he throws it on the ground and he's like, I'll have another. And she's like, can you just ask for one like a normal person? He's like, but I did. I liked it. I asked for another. She goes, no, just, that was fun.
Yeah, it's just these like very Thor-isms, you know? So they're basically trying to figure out like what the fuck is this guy's deal? Is he a nut job? What does he know?
By the way, when they get back to the office, the Shield is there confiscating all of the equipment.
Yeah, they come in and like take everything. So it's like, go fuck yourself. They confiscate their vehicle. So all the research that they have is basically out the window. And Shield, so we don't know it, but the hammer has, I mean, they don't know it.
The hammer landed somewhere else.
The hammer's landed somewhere else. A bunch of rednecks have found it and are like doing this very like sword in the stone, trying to like who can get the hammer out. And it's all these like big redneck dudes trying to pull it. We see a truck try to pull it. And
it fucks up the truck, pulls the bed out.
Stanley cameo there driving the truck.
Oh, I was wondering where the Stanley cameo was. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And he's like, did we get it? And so the scene when they're sitting at the coffee shop, the rednecks are like, they're talking about this satellite or whatever.
They're talking about the satellite and Thor overhears it and is like, where is it? And like, it's about 50 miles west of here. And he's like,
all right, I'm going to go. Yeah. He's like, I got to go find a horse.
Yeah. He goes into a pet store and he's like, I need a horse. And they're like, we don't sell horses. We sell birds and cats and dogs. And he's like, all right, give me your biggest one to ride. And that's when like the guy just looks at him like he's nuts. And Natalie Portman comes in and is like, do you just want to ride in my car?
Yeah. But it's just them because Selvig forbade her from, he's like, don't, just leave him alone, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah, because he's like, you don't know about these SHIELD guys. He's like, I knew a guy who worked in, he was like one of the top scientists in gamma radiation, got in touch with these SHIELD guys and disappeared, which of course is alluding to Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk.
So then the next scene is SHIELD taking over the site where the hammer landed. And they turned it into this like, giant scientific thing, trying to extract it from the earth.
Of this, like all these machines trying to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Thor and Natalie Portman show up, and Natalie Portman's like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Just walk in there and get it? And he's like, yeah.
She's like, are you going to walk in there and then walk out with it? He's like, well, no, I'm going to fly out. And she's like, what?
What? Who? What are you talking about?
Fuck. Like, just like, he goes in and she's like, please don't be crazy, which like, he's obviously kind of crazy, but he like sneaks in through the fence. There's very much like, oh, there's been a breach. Someone's in here. And then it's like, he
starts fucking everybody up.
Out of people and like beats his way.
He runs into a big guy who I think is an Avenger character later when he goes, oof, you're a big guy. I
didn't realize that.
I think that might be an Avenger character. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in our chat can tell us. But he's like going through everybody like quickly, but he meets this one guy who's like super strong and he's like, oh man, you're big, you can fight. And then
he ends up getting through him. He gets right up to the satellite and there's a guy who's like, I've got a shot on him, and we see Hawkeye.
It's a bow and arrow. We see Hawkeye, but he's a bow and arrow guy. But at the head SHIELD agent, I can't remember his name right now, is like Coulson. Special Agent Coulson. Coulson is like,
he's like, don't shoot him. I want to see what happens. So he's like, something's up here, or like, he's just curious because he's like, obviously this guy has a huge attachment to this thing. We don't know what the fuck it is, and it's emitting all this energy, like that's fucking with all of their technology. And Thor walks up to it like, this is the moment, and grabs it, and then cannot fucking remove it. And he's
and then here's the part that really fucking bugged me. Thor immediately, they start putting his hands behind his back, And Thor is just like so despondent, and he's like just sitting there like nothing's happening, and he so willingly just like gave up.
Yeah,
And
he's
it's
just
like everything that I've known about him, I'm like, wait, why isn't he still fighting? I was like so devastated and mad, and I just didn't feel like that was right for the character for him to be like that.
yeah.
Anyhow.
I mean, he has the moment of being like, "Argh!" But then it's just like, wee, 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 like I'm fucked. And he kind of like at this point is like, well, what the fuck is the point? And they then take him and bring him into
For questioning. We then do a cutaway to back to Asgard, where his friends are suspecting that perhaps Loki's up to no good.
Yeah, they kind of allude to like he's mischievous, but then someone's like he would never do that. He wouldn't, he'd never like. They were like maybe he let the, someone had to let the frost giants in, and
yeah,
they're
like Loki
magic because he does magic.
So then Loki goes and talks to Odin, and Odin tells him, he drops the fucking bomb on him. He's like, yo, Loki. Well, Loki's like, hey, something fucking weird happened when I was in Jotunheim.
Yeah, he like shows up and he's like, what's the fucking story?
Yeah, he's like, a White Walker touched me and I didn't get fucking burnt, okay? And he's like, all right, just to let you know, you were actually the son of Laufey. You were like abandoned, and when we were having the big war with Jotunheim back in the day, we saw just like this abandoned baby, and we couldn't like just leave you there, so we took you and we raised you as our own child. And he's like, you always played favorites with Thor. I was never your favorite because I was never your child.
Yeah, and he also insinuates that like, oh, you were using me as something, like you didn't actually whatever. And he's like, no wonder you could never let a frost giant sit on the throne. Blah 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 blah. And then basically he's screaming at him, and he
has a fucking heart attack and slips into a coma.
Yeah,
and they call it the Odin sleep, which is hilarious.
But then it's like interesting because I felt like you see this little bit of like, oh fuck, with Loki, like he wasn't trying to give his father a heart attack, really, like, but
and then it's like good news for him because he's like, all right, cool, well, I'm acting king now.
Well, they make him king, but it's like at this point it's kind of like, if you know the story already, you already know, but like watching it, you're like, it's not totally clear if Loki's an antagonist, like if he's actually like the bad guy or what's up. So it's kind of weird. It's like there's this looming sort of something is not right.
Yeah. You can tell he has a lot of fucking emotional baggage, and it's probably not going to end well. But then you ultimately realize he's the bad guy when it goes back to Earth, where Thor is being questioned by Special Agent Coulson, and he leaves for a second, and then Loki just like appears, which I don't fully understand.
Loki's good at like something about his magic. He can like appear and disappear.
Oh, he can also he can assume someone else's form.
That's true.
Because remember he went over to the hammer. He went over to the hammer and was like trying to pull on the hammer, and I think they just thought he was like a special investigator or something. He was just like moving. Didn't
see him. He's like, I can never tell with him if it's like, is this an illusion where no one sees him? Does he look like something else? And then now that we're saying this, I'm like, was Special Agent Coulson in there initially, or was he pretending to be him and then he came in after? Yeah, because he's like, what do you mean? I just got here or whatever.
Yeah. So and Loki sees Thor and he's like, hey, bro, you can't come back. Dad banished you. And also he's dead.
Is your sound okay? Hang on. Your sound did something.
It got weird. Oh, I literally haven't moved. I've done nothing. No. No.
It didn't like go to default. All right. Just make sure. Yeah. As long as QuickTime's getting it. Okay. Sorry.
So he's like dad's dead, and the only way we're gonna have peace, the stipulation of peace between us and Jotunheim, is that you never come back.
Yeah, and he's like, surely you can do something.
Oh, and mom doesn't want you. Yeah, mom doesn't want you coming back either.
And he's like, I just kind of came to like tell you sorry and like whatever. And at this point, like as a viewer, you don't know that you're like, oh my god, their dad's dead. Oh, this is like. It's like some things I missed, but also, is their dad dead? Like, it's like, oh, fuck, this is serious. And then he disappears and Special Agent Coulson's there. And it's like, oh.
And then Coulson comes in, he's like, you have a visitor. And it's fucking Selvig being like, hey, yeah, he's actually part of that guy's part of our team.
He's a doctor. He's like, he's just really, a little angry because all of his stuff got taken away.
He's angry. Coulson's like, he literally beat up everyone. He's like, steroid rage. She was on steroids.
He's a fitness nut. And so they like look up the identity and then like, they're like, okay, I guess he's clear to go. And he takes him out, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to tell you, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Does anyone remember Paul Harvey? Okay, we'll be right back.
Okay, we're back. So Selvig now has Thor, and he's telling Thor he needs to fucking hit the road. And they go to a bar. And by the way, Coulson is like, hey, when Selvig was leaving with Thor, Coulson's like, stay out of a bar. And then Thor's like, where are we going? He's like, to a bar. So they're there. She's like, listen, you got to hit the road. You got to get out of here. Whatever. He's like, but before we go, let's chug Boilermakers, because that's how you say goodbye in New Mexico. That's just what happens.
Alcoholism and meth. That's all they have. And
Selvig, because he's a fucking lightweight bitch, gets fucking hammered, and then Thor carries him back to this trailer where
it's like an RV where they like
live. I didn't understand the whole living situation.
Like their field housing. It's like when they go out of the city or whatever. But he goes back there where Natalie Portman is, and this guy's like drunk, and like
and then he and Natalie Portman end up talking and like cuddling outside under the stars, blah blah blah. And he like tells her everything about like the 9 realms and the Bifrost Bridge, and she's like, "Oh my god, I thought that was the Einstein-Rosen bridge. There was a wormhole, but it's actually like a real bridge. Oh my god, I've been researching this."
Yeah, it's like, he had stolen back her notebook too, and he's like, "You're actually like really like close to what it is." And he talks about how like, magic and science are kind of one and the same where he's from. We go back to Loki going to Jotunheim. So Loki goes to Jotunheim and approaches Laufey, who like, I don't know if it's ever clear to Laufey that this is his kid. Like, does he know? I have no idea. But he is striking up a deal with Laufey. So he goes, I will let you in to Asgard, and then you have to kill Odin, which will make me king. And you'll get to kill him like right there in his sleep. And it's kind of just like this side plot point. But then Loki unleashes
the Destroyer to go to Earth.
The Golem, the Destroyer.
By the way, before he froze Heimdall,
we haven't even talked about that yet.
Thor's crew went down to Earth to bring back Thor.
Yeah, so like they went to Heimdall, and because Loki went to Heimdall, and he's like, no one can leave here. Yeah, I'm the king. I am the acting king. You are not allowed to let anyone leave, which was kind of like, don't let Thor's friends out. But Heimdall, smart guy, is aware that like something is amiss. So when he conveniently
leaves the station.
Yeah, and they go down to Earth, which he will then pay for because Loki does completely freeze him. But Loki sends the Destroyer that we saw way earlier at the beginning when the frost giants came into Asgard. He sends that to Earth to fucking get rid of Thor. Like, we're gonna get rid of Thor and his people. So this thing fucking comes slamming down to Earth.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, when Thor's friends show up, he's like in the lab with like Natalie Portman and like whatever, and they're all like his crew is like walking through this New Mexico town and they're like futuristic getups. And what did somebody say? Is there a Renaissance fair?
Yeah, no, it is like they're from like their technology is advanced, but their outfits are very like medieval times.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the fuck is happening? And then he sees them. It's like, oh my god. And
he's like, my
look.
friends, and they're all like, he's like, this is this person, this is this person, and she's like, wait, these are really your friends? That's crazy.
Yeah. And they go, we've come to take you home. And he's like, I can't go home. Loki told me that my dad's dead. And they're like, your dad's not dead. And so
so he learns about like what fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, the wheels start turning, like something is fucking up. Then this like thing.
Destroyer gets there and he's like, everybody get out of town. We got to go after this guy. So this huge fight ensues with his crew and him and whatever. And he basically is like, I need to be the one who like vanquishes this like big destroyer guy. Everybody get back.
He's
and
essentially he, like, sacrificing himself.
Yeah. And he's like, listen, don't do this. Like, if don't hurt these people. They're innocent. Just fucking kill me instead. So he fucking swats him. And Natalie Portman runs over to his body and she's like, no. And he fucking dies.
Yeah. Or he's laying there like dying. And then all of a sudden, because he's sacrificed himself. Back
in Asgard, Odin, who's in his Odin sleep, a little fucking a baby tear, because he realizes like, oh my god, my son Thor, he is the one who's worthy of the power of the hammer. And then that awakens the hammer, and the hammer's like jiggling, and like all the scientists at the crater that the hammer left, they're like, there's a power surge, something's going on. And then all of a sudden the hammer just goes ripping through the air to Thor.
Yeah, it just comes flying through to him. And then we see Thor become Thor, kick this thing's ass. And of course, all the scientists are like, oh, like this is not and especially the male scientist, Eric or whatever, had mentioned like, oh, the lore. Oh, those are stories I got told as a kid. And he's like, oh my God, is this fucking real?
And so he kills the fucking giant destroyer dude. Like Natalie Portman is like, oh my god, and he's like, I have to go back to Asgard, to take care of things, and he like pulls her in, and he's like, I will come back for you, this I promise.
I promise. And then they just like suck each other's faces off, and then he flies off.
Well, he kisses her hand, and she was like, wait, you're gonna just kiss my hand?
Then
no.
Like,
and then they
might not come back. I mean, I think it's implied here. They make out. They fucked. Right there in the street.
But their kiss, there's penetration down below. They did not show the penetration, but that kiss was physically one of the most awkward kisses I've ever had to watch on television screen. I can't believe they didn't. I was like, she's kissing his lower lip. Like, it didn't even line up. It was weird. Anyhow,
I didn't think anything of it. I just was like, just two people.
I always judge people kissing in shit.
What is that like from an acting standpoint?
Yeah, because kissing is like both, because I'm horny, and kissing and acting is like a really hard thing.
I almost think that like first kisses are awkward sometimes. You don't know the person's rhythm,
Yeah, but like also like, I don't know. That is true. Anywho.
So what are you supposed to do when you're trying to act, but you're like coming in your pants because you're making out with Chris Hemsworth? You're just like,
yeah. I mean, I could easily fucking fake it for him. Anyway, so they go back up the Bifrost. And what's happening back in Asgard? Bifrost, the Bifrost. Bitcoin. I was making it a Bitcoin. Back in Asgard. Back in Asgard, the fucking ice giants
have been brought in.
They're invading, okay? And so fucking Thor gets back there, uses his hammer, and like, well, we're in the room where Odin is in his Odin sleep, and Loki is there.
No, we don't know Loki's there.
No. Well, Loki comes up with the He
doesn't come in with Laufey. All of a sudden, frost giants come in, and like Laufey's standing over him, and he's like, I've been told you're aware of what's going on. I'm gonna kill you. It's gonna be at the hand of me. He holds up the thing, and then all of a sudden he gets killed. And I thought it was gonna be Thor.
It was Laufey, and it was Loki.
It's Loki. And it's like, oh, he set up this whole thing to look like a hero in his father's eyes.
And then the mom is there,
like,
who's Renee Russo, I think. Is that Renee Russo? Guys, chime in and let us know. Renee Russo's like, oh my God, Loki. And then fucking Thor shows up.
And is
And
like,
he's like,
and
drops the fucking truth bomb on his mom.
literally, yeah, she's like, thank God you came back. And he's like, your son fucking lied to you.
He
Blah,
orchestrated
blah,
this
blah,
whole
blah.
thing. He's the bad guy. Blah, 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 blah. And then they start like fucking, they go into a huge fight between Loki and Thor.
And Thor. So the real battle is like these two brothers, and you see like Loki like disappearing and Thor throwing the hammer and like
That was pretty cool because I didn't know the extent, because Loki walks around with that staff thing.
yeah, and it's fucking
By the way, which is very reminiscent of
Jafar?
the Jafar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very Jafarish.
Uh,
And then he also has this, he's able to multiply, so you don't know which one's the real one, but like
yeah, he makes almost like holograms of himself, so you don't
Yeah.
know. Because we saw that briefly before when he was fighting the Frost Giants initially. We saw him get stabbed, but then it was actually just a hologram and he killed the Frost Giant. It happens really fast in that early fight scene.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But
Oh, and then Loki was like, we're gonna destroy Jotunheim. And Thor's like, what are you doing? No. He's like, what? You wanted to destroy them before. He's like, just leave it alone.
and
And
he's
then
basically like, when did you become such a fucking pussy?
yeah, and then Loki like directs this like beam that's in the Bifrost to like destroy their planet and puts it on autopilot and like
Jotunheim,
freezes
he's
it.
like,
So
we're gonna blow it all up, which
Yeah.
is like very like, what are you doing?
And so they're fighting, they're on the bridge. Thor takes his hammer and pins Loki down, which is like a thing you can do,
Yeah,
which is
it's
really
such
cool.
because no one can lift his hammer, so he
Yeah.
pins him and he starts walking. It's all this wind. He's like walking toward trying to shut off.
He's like, and Loki's like, ha 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 ha, you can never shut it off. And then Thor's like, oh, I know how I can. And then Thor summons his hammer and fucking
starts
whack, whack, whack.
beating the bridge like he's gonna just sever it. And Loki, who had already made fun of him for being like, oh my god, you're into that girl from Earth, is like, you're never gonna be able to see her again. But like trying to like stop him.
Uh-huh. And he's like, no, this is the only way to go. And before he like hammers the bridge for the last time, he's like, I'm sorry, Penelope. I don't know. I can't remember what her
Jane, her
name was.
name's
I'm
Jane.
sorry, Jane. And he fucking
he just,
hammers it. And the Bifrost falls like into the abyss. And the beam that was being fired at Jotunheim goes away. And
You see it like fall into like presumably the direction of Jotunheim, or like wait, and then they end up, Odin comes out. Odin's like awakened.
yeah, Odin comes out. I can't remember.
I just remember the ending scene where they're like hanging. I guess when it all breaks off,
something breaks off, and then Odin appears, and he like he grabs Thor's hand.
Yeah, like
and
they're
then
about to fall
Thor
off
is holding Loki.
He's holding the staff, and Loki's holding the end of the staff.
Yeah, and Thor's like, and the dad's like, "Come on, blah blah
like,
blah."
He's trying to save both of them, and like Loki's like looking up at them holding the staff, and I don't know. I don't remember what the fuck Odin says. I just remember there's this very like moment of how we like.
It was a moment of the dad being like, "It's okay, everything's okay."
Of being a dad, and it's like, just come back up here. We can like fix this.
Yeah.
And then Loki just fucking lets go.
Yeah.
The thing and falls back into the abyss. Toward
and
like,
we don't know where he's going.
We don't know. Like presumably dead. Loki's gone, and we just see like Thor like no being held. His dad's holding his fucking feet too. Like
yeah. And also, the bridge back to Jane is gone now, and Jane is standing on the ground waiting for him to come back, and the whole sky like clears up, and she can see that the Bifrost is gone. So she's like,
it had
oh,
been
no.
chaos in the sky, and then it's just fucking gone. So like, is it gone forever? What's she feeling? And it's sort of like we get this ending of Thor apologizing to his father, and this kind of like his father realizes like Thor has learned and is like ready to be a king, and like has matured in this span of time. And we see was this the button Thor talking to Heimdall?
Well, no.
Heimdall.
No, the button was something else. Well, we first see that back on Earth, Jane is hired by S.H.I.E.L.D. to help.
Oh yeah, and so is Darcy for some fucking reason.
So they're now involved in that. Same thing with Selvig. And then
which maybe is a nugget for later. We don't know.
And then he talks to Heimdall at some point.
Who is the gatekeeper who
Mhm.
we didn't really say this before, but if you don't know, which you probably do know if you're listening to this, but like Heimdall can like hear what's going on in the other realms. He's like connected for some reason.
Yeah.
He's able to like look in on people. And so Thor is like, can you see her? And he's like, yeah, she has never stopped looking for you. She like keeps, I'm going to cry.
Oh, by the way,
They're
forgot
so
to mention, before
like me looking
Thor
for my
took
dad.
off and went back to Asgard, he said to the Agent Coulson, he was like, listen, give Jane all of her equipment, her research, everything.
yeah.
And Coulson's like, but will you work for us? Will you work for S.H.I.E.L.D.? And he's like, yes, I'll work for you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And then, okay, so that was before that. The ending was Heimdall being like, yeah, she's looking for you. Ends. Yeah. Then there's roll credits, at the end. We cut
Nick
to
Fury again.
Selvig is talking to Fury. And he shows him the tesseract,
the thing,
energy thing,
the casket.
It's a case. It's in a silver case, and it's unlimited power.
Oh, I guess it's different, but like, yeah. So he's showing him this thing. It's like the reminiscent of the thing at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically kind of like explaining or showing him. And Loki appears in the scene, but they don't see him. So we're like, oh, fuck, Loki's alive. And now he's like going toward this thing, which had been the source of the power for what we found out was his people, the Frost Giants.
Yeah. And Loki is now controlling Selvig. So Selvig says, Fury's like, here's this thing. And then Selvig's like, well, I guess it's worth a look. And then you see Loki repeat, I guess it's worth a look, standing next to him. And you can tell he's being controlled.
Oh, I don't think he's being controlled. I thought he was just like, is that really what that is? I thought it was him going.
He's being controlled by him.
I thought it was just him. Wow, I'm so dumb. You're right. Okay, well, I thought it was him, like, either being him or just, like, agreeing, whatever.
He was under his control.
The point is, Loki's still out there. Thor is cut off from Earth. It seems like Loki maybe fell to Earth.
Yeah, he made it to Earth.
Ends. What are your thoughts?
I really love this. There was like at the beginning I was kind of like, the whole storm chasing scene, I was like, oh, this is so unnecessarily long. Like we didn't, they needed to establish who they were. So they had to have like the beginning thing. But it was just like, there was some stuff that was just like, why are we doing this? I love all the scenes where Thor is like still stuck in his Thor ways and like talking to people on Earth. Like that's just so comical to me.
I think they dig more into that. Like by the time Ragnarok came, they really like let him get silly with stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I'm excited for that. I had forgotten this one. And I heard from more than one person when I told them we were doing Thor. They're like, oh, that first one sucks. But like, I liked it. But also Thor's so hot.
So, I mean, there were moments where I was just like, he was like just walking around with no shirt on when they broke him out of the lab and they brought him back, and he's like just he's in jeans, just like shirtless, and he's just got this like thick ass and thighs, and like his jeans are just, there's no belt and they're just staying up, and I'm like, and then he's just the fucking V body. It's just,
his body is like,
who is fucking built like that? It's wild.
Is a god. Like it's fucking. I want to know if that was all his body or if there was like a little bit of airbrushing and makeup, because like he's. Oh.
It is crazy how good his body is. Like
it is unreal.
It is unfucking real.
Like what
how
did
good
he
it is.
Grow up eating that he became this giant chiseled man?
Has he ever eaten anything bad?
I got something bad for him to eat.
Yeah, fucking eat this rotten pussy.
Anyway, on that note, listen, that's Thor. What are we doing next? Shit.
Avengers, I think, is next.
Avengers is next?
Is it? Man. No.
Wait.
Captain America.
And then Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Captain America's next. We've seen small allusions to Captain America. I think we saw, like a little shield of his with Tony Stark and a mention of him, I believe, in Incredible Hulk, they talked about like the soldier technology.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Captain America also very hot. That's the whole Marvel season is us just like talking about how hot everyone
Yeah.
is.
Everybody's
'Cause
fucking
two
hot.
filthy nerds. We're just here for their V's and their weenies. And then Avengers, and we're fucking chugging along. I hope you guys are liking it. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want more of by finding us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook at Two Filthy Nerds. You can also follow the podcast there. Subscribe and leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this, please. And if you want to support us a little bit more, patreon.com/twofilthynerds. You can be in the live studio audience. You can come to movie watches depending on your level. We're taking a group field trip to Universal Studios next year. You'll be invited to that and more. And we also have a Facebook group, Fellowship of the Filthy Nerds. Go over there, join. Funny memes, funny conversations. We're having fun here. And that's it. That's Thor. We're going to go lay the hammer
that was so good.
elsewhere.
And we will if you are on our Patreon, you will be kept abreast of movie
Updates.
when the movies are going to be when we're going to watch the movies and
Yeah.
comment on them.
Yeah. So, and you get advance notice of these things. You can watch us live on YouTube, but we pretty much promote it as it's coming out. You can know when we're recording by becoming a patron. We love you guys. And until next time, filth on, you filthy nerds.
Bye.
Bye.